Well, good morning on this summer Monday morning and start of a new week. Last week, interesting week. We talked about a lot of those volumes that were really hitting, and we had gone over 30 million contracts on multiple days last week. And we started to slow down as we got towards the end part of last week. Didn't that makes total sense, absolute sense that we'd finally see a little bit of a pullback. When I say that, 26 million contracts is still a monstrous day, a monstrous day. But you get spoiled when you start seeing 30 million and 33 million and those kind of numbers above 30 million on a fairly regular basis in the month of August. And then all of a sudden you see 26 million. It feels a little bit softer. But let's not forget, it's summertime. It was a Friday. And as we got into the closer towards the weekend, we really did start to see things really kind of ease back just that much. And it makes some sense that we were a little bit lower than expected. Now it's Monday morning. Now we're getting ready for another big day. And what we were seeing last week and the theme that's been playing out has been what's really been shifting around and the dislocation between the NASDAQ and the Dow. And that's been playing out more and more where we've seen the Dow getting pulled to the downside, and yet we've seen the NASDAQ buoying things up. And we've also been watching that S&P 500 for quite a while now. Everybody's looking at that because whenever you look at it, you're waiting for the pot to boil and you keep on looking at it, that old expression, right? That's what's been happening with the S&P. Everybody's looking for that close. We did get over levels, but when will we close at a new fresh high for the S&P 500? So that's certainly been one of the conversations that's been going on for a while now. But I'll tell you, it's really interesting because early on, before the market opened up and the pre-market, and as we got into the early stages of the market, Dow was up about 40 plus points. You had the NASDAQ up about 60 points. So definite outperformance there by the NASDAQ. But then suddenly we start looking and watching very closely as we get that pull on the Dow. And the pull on the Dow, it pushed to flat, kind of holding it flat. Meanwhile, the NASDAQ had gone a little bit higher, up about 75 points. And now we've started to see even more of a dislocation because now we're starting to see the Dow, which has gotten hit pretty good. It's been down further, but right now it's down about 55 points. And meanwhile, you look over at the NASDAQ, it's up almost 90 points already. So a real big disconnect right now between those two. And we've been talking about that theme, which has been playing out. And everybody suddenly jumped on the bandwagon of, well, it's not about growth. Now it's about value. I find all those things to be very comical and very interesting. And a lot of people, they love to just hype that whole story up. Reality is there's going to be shifts, there's going to be moves, but the reality continues to be that folks are looking for growth. And if you've got the fundamental side of that, which is a lot of the various names that have been really pushing the markets to the upside, then you still have the area that people want to be in. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So what's really leading when we're talking about the NASDAQ, what's leading is, well, NVIDIA, surprise, surprise. You've got Tesla, you got JD, you've got Zoom, you've got KLAC 10 Core. Oh, throw in Microsoft, Apple, Intel, having a pretty good day. Actually, the whole SMH, I'll touch on that a little bit later. And then you look over at the Dow, and early on, retail was definitely helping the Dow. But problem being, so many of those other names in the Dow, especially the financial names, starting to really start to pull. And then add some of those industrial names as well, the Boeings and Raytheons. But you look at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and some of those names, all sort of really kind of weighing a bit on the Dow. And that's something that we've been wanting to see what's going to happen with these financials. How are they trading? Are they going to be able to sustain some of the gains after a couple of days in a row of actually moving to the upside? Can they hold on to that? Can JP Morgan continue to hold on to 100? That's starting to be a question once again, as that stock is sort of pulling back and getting a little bit closer to 100 once again after a really nice big move from the financials over a couple of trading sessions. Bank of America being one of the biggest and probably a huge influence, I think, on the financials right now. Everybody's talking about Warren Buffett and some of the shifts that he made, getting out of Goldman Sachs, reducing some of his other positions in some of the other financials, and obviously the very big known, which was some of the huge positions of adding to the Bank of America. So all of that might be part of what's playing forth right now in terms of pulling on the Dow and looking at those financials. So the financials, yeah, they're trading with a little bit of a disappointing sort of an edge right now. And you look over at the NASDAQ, there are certain areas of the NASDAQ that are outperforming still. You look at biotech having another pretty good day, but airlines, cruise ships. They were having a bit of a struggle on Friday, having another struggle again today. So that's another theme that's been playing out. So as we look at it, the last I looked, I saw the financials are down about 0.5%, maybe a little bit more, holding on to that 25 level in the XLF. But the SMH did stand out because we talk about the NASDAQ all the time, and everybody talks about the power 4 or 5 names, and those names certainly do push around the markets, absolutely no doubt about it. But with the support of many other names, many of the other cloud names, some of the software names, and oh, by the way, these semiconductors, these chip names, you look over at the SMH, 52-week highs today. Let's just think about that. The theme that's playing out is you are seeing the semiconductors really having another good solid day. NVIDIA being one of those names. Intel actually participating today. Broadcom, ASML, AMD. You go through a list. Not all the names, obviously. There's going to be some names that are up and some of those down. We've watched that on many occasions where we've seen the shift within the semiconductors themselves. But those are the names that are definitely leading things to the upside today. I take a quick gander over at the VIX right now, holding right around 22. We've been talking about that 22, 23 for a while now. We've also talked about this whole contraction of the move. And we certainly are seeing that playing out more and more because even though we are seeing some highs and some lows within the day, it is such a contracted a size compared to where it was just a few months ago, even a few weeks ago. And we've been getting closer and closer to this. And we've been watching that volatility index as well, where it was trading in a 4 and a 5 point range, now trading in a very, very tight range, almost a 1 point range now as we're sitting right around and hovering right around this 22 level. Are we going to get under 20 this week? Strong possibility, depending on, in my opinion, a lot, obviously the news stories coming out, but it's going to be looking at a lot of the earnings. And we know that this is big, huge retail earnings week. So we'll be focusing on that. So for unusual, what we wanted to go with today, McDonald's. And here's why it stands out. So oftentimes when we were looking to break down some of the unusual option activity that we see, more often than not, we're looking at something that's right at the money or just out of the money. In other words, if a stock is trading around 25, we're looking at something that's close to 25 or maybe even above. And that's part of what we're looking at in terms of the buying aspect of these options and how we're trying to break it down and the expectations of what's in front of us. So what's really interesting about today, though, in McDonald's is the stock's trading around 209. They're buying the 207 and a halves. Now, these are a 2-week option because when we look at the expiration cycle of this one, it's August 28th. So there's a little bit of time for these to potentially work, but not a lot of time. So again, the theme of fairly short term, but these are in the money. These are actually trading $1.50 or thereabouts in the money. So interesting because that gives you more delta. Something why we always say knowledge is king. Just understand that these are in the money. So in other words, if the stock does move quickly to the upside, these options will move very quickly with the stock because of the delta that they hold. So they were buying these for about $3 up to a little over $4 or $4.50, somewhere in that range. And so it's interesting because they already have $1.50 worth of value. And so that's where we're looking to see this. This is somebody who's looking at this as more of a, hey, look, don't want to pay for the stock, but I can use these options and leverage this maybe to the upside. So that does stick out. About 4,000 of those were bought earlier today in the session, and definitely sticks out. It seems to be very bullish, looking for this stock to maybe make a move to the upside, maybe somebody rolling out of some stock after the stock has made a move, whatever the case may be. But these are in the money calls, so a little bit different than something we normally will cover when we're talking about unusual option activity. We're talking about something out of the money. You got to have the knowledge. You got to have the understanding. That's what makes this so much more of an interesting trade and why I actually selected this one today as we're going up. And as a matter of fact, by the way, I'm going to be on the noon show today at the halftime show, so look forward to that. That'll be on CNBC today at noon Eastern time. That's going to be interesting as well. Got a bunch of fresh, new, unusual option activity coming for that one as well. Now, knowledge is king. Make sure you get educated. We got the very best in the business. I absolutely am confident beyond words about that. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and maybe even this afternoon. Take care.